Welcome to the Crimeycade podcast. I'm the mad conservative crime fighter and former Game of the Year, Stephen Lucas, also the current Pinball Expo champion. Of course, I'm the 1991 Nintendo Campus Challenge National Champion. Welcome in. I took a week off yesterday for the holiday and ready to get right back at it. Well, before I bring in my first guest, gonna do a quick rundown of the scores that have been achieved in the last week or 2 weeks or so. Well, we're gonna start off with a couple of scores coming from the Underground Retrocade. Now they're doing this summer-long big dog tournament where they are doing, I guess you could call it somewhat semi-formal. High score chasing over there. That's the other primary arcade that submits scores to arcade. But last week or so, and by the way, it's like the more time you visit, your score multiplier goes up, and then you get more points for high scores you get. I don't know what the winner will get at the end because this is running from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I'll have to really look into taking part in this next year. But Catherine Bosey, the new co-hostess or new interviewer for Blade Wars Tournament, has taken the house high for off-road, the Track Pack edition at 747K. Congrats to her. She didn't have many house highs or world records. So that's anything. That's a relatively new addition to the floor. The pinball, Stranger Things, 507 million points was obtained by Matt Kopetsky on the 7th. King Cam, Brandon Travis, over at Galvin Ghost, took the house high on Pozon and is close to 160 in the game at 492,000. Plus, Tony DeRose has eclipsed the 1 million mark for a Denny's prototype game that only saw a Sega Genesis release, High Seas Havoc. Andrew Owasco, as of today, retook the house high on Savage Quest at just under 100,000. They must have fixed the joystick because I played that game. I was trying to get the house high on it and trying to hit the headbutt on it has been the button that controls the headbutt motion and some other things only seem to work about a quarter of the time. So they must have finally fixed that. And now it responds better, which is why the scores on that game are going up. Brian Weisenberg previously had the house high, and then Andrew has proceeded to take it back. And the two new releases as of Monday, Gunnail, Andrew got 147,000. The other game, which is represented by a fire barrel, because the game's name is Fire Barrel, there isn't a marquee for it, apparently, I guess. So I just got a photo of a burning barrel, which I think tells you what the game is. And thanks for the bits from the hype man JP. Thank you for the bits for cheering me on. We'll have some maybe some news about Bloody Wars in a bit. So the next slide, that's not all. Paul Tessie, Mega Retro Man, has raised the world record on the Nintendo Campus Challenge 1991, which is my tournament cartridge. He has, as of over the weekend, he has breached the 25 million mark, 25.7 million points as of July the 6th, a new world record. He did break 25 million, 25.1 before he set this one, and he found a pattern in Dr. Mario that would yield him the amount of points to get this mark. Andrew Iwasco got the house side back from Crime Fighters, which I'm kind of surprised he got it back because of how difficult the game is and how ungenerous the level health replenishing is. I mean, you start with 100 points of health, and it kind of counts down in seconds or so for Crime Fighters. But you're only getting 30 points back between levels, and that's hardly enough for this type of beat 'em up. So that's why nobody's gotten super far into the game. He only got into level 4, and if you don't get the gun to kill off all the enemies and the bosses, then you're not going to get very far. He also got the house high, took that one back in Death Braid, which is a painfully difficult clone of King of Fighters. As for me, they finally put in a score for Dark Seal 2, also known as Wizard Fire, at 123. Top Hunter, Ryan Cathy, I raised my score on it, but it's still pending. Why? I don't know. But they finally came to explain why they finally made a ruling on Cyberlip. Not only got 100,300 points, but they disqualified that score. And I got something to say about that because it's like, why did they disqualify it? And the game, and I didn't even get a full run on it because the game kept rebooting. So
I haven't used this platform lately to really rant about stuff, because there's a lot to rant about in the gaming world of late, and a few people need a pie to the face, namely stupid tomboys named Alyssa trying to out Karen the Karens for a title of Queen of the Deranged Lunatics who claim to be gaming journalists. How's that for an opener? But it's something to yammer about for an entire episode about. So many others are doing it and doing it much better than I can right now. What I want to talk about, and this has been something I've brought up multiple times over these past 20 episodes of the podcast, is my frustrations over scoring and score chasing. Once again, I've experienced something that's rubbed me the wrong way, and it's not the first time it's happened. To cover some background, score chasing is something I could have done when I was much younger. I could have sent scores to magazines and such of gaming achievements I've had, but there was a major problem. Technology was not conducive to submitting scores. Back then, you had to have a good camera to capture a screenshot and deal with the refresh bar that blacks out parts of the screen, those old analog TVs. Most had a film camera that you had to send the reel to the store to develop and wait days to see if it captured the score at all. Or maybe you tried to use a Polaroid instant camera. Or maybe you had a VCR and a supply of VHS tapes to record your gameplay and mail somewhere to verify the score. A big pain in the rear back in the 80s and 90s to submit scores. The folks who submitted these legendary arcade records may have had someone who could officiate the scoring on site, but it wasn't until digital technology advanced in the last 15-20 years to where you could snap a photo with a smartphone or record an MP4 video file with a camcorder to an SD card, made things much less difficult. The vastly improved accessibility has been a good thing. What has kept me from submitting scores to Twin Galaxies, however, is the requirement to pull the cabinet out and show the board, which is not something arcade personnel is going to do at the drop of a hat, especially when the arcade is super busy. I can see why they put this demand in the aftermath of Billy Mitchell's famously disputed Donkey Kong scores and whether he played on arcade hardware or MAME. I've only submitted Piranha. Don't know why it's the only been just the one, but I did. Because showing the board deal, I've not been eager to fire scores over there, as it is a hassle to pull a machine out, open the back door, and find the dip switches. That could be a reason why there aren't anywhere close to as many arcade submissions compared to MAME submissions. Now, when I decided to start chasing scores at GGA, Galvin Ghost, it's because I saw the big scoreboard on the flat screen monitors. I kind of got inspired to get into the scoring community. Because of how many games there were, I had to carefully dig through the scoreboard to identify games I had a chance at beating the house high. After a few visits, I emerged in the top 10. But I was also given the title of King of Low-Hanging Fruit. Remember the low-hanging fruit point for later. What is padding? It's defined as something added unnecessarily or dishonestly as verbiage to a speech or a false charge on an expense account. Score padding is said to be unfair, dishonest gameplay, or cheating. Let's say an exploited game glitch causes your score to go into the billions like Paperboy, whereas the spot at the end of a level you could go between the finish and the fence line. A boundary break. That score probably wouldn't be accepted because a billion score isn't possible in normal gameplay, and it's a game-breaking bug that was fixed in a later version. But it's running up the score when there's a hard level time limit, flat out cheating. I mean, those Donkey Kong scores would never have crossed over the million mark if you were told you had to complete the level as quick as possible. What about Splatterhouse? How's the world record achieved? Staying in a boss fight as long as possible. And other runs I've watched on Super Contra and Russian Attack, I've seen some hanging about before entering the boss fight. On the flip side, one game has a novel length of rules and regulations that would inspire a lampoon video. Good old Super Mario Brothers. Gillo this. Special rules. Your scoring attempt ends when you either die for a fifth time or you manage to defeat Bowser and save the princess at the end of World 8-4, thus beating the game. The turtle stair hop trick is banned, and use of it will result in immediate disqualification of your score, accidental or not. This also includes the use of a single enemy to get increasingly larger amounts of points by repeatedly jumping on it, including Piper block ricocheting. In this instance, you may jump on it, send it flying, and jump on it once more, and only once more, and then you may send it flying, leave it be, or destroy it. Any further attempts on the single enemy in question will disqualify your scoring attempt. Use of any pipe to go somewhere different than the programmers intended is banned. Jumping through a solid object to access an area faster than the programmers intended is not allowed. This falls under a variation of the wall jumping trick. Warping is permitted, but not wrong warping. Waiting to grab the golden axe at the end of every Bowser level until the last possible second, causing the timer to roll over to 9.99 is banned, and use of it will result in immediate disqualification. You must access the underwater area of 8-4 by using the pipe across the lava pit. The turtle stair hop trick is where a turtle comes down a set of stairs and you leap on it at the correct time, so when you hit it, the shell hits stairs and comes back to you. You manage to fall on the shell again, causing it to bounce back, and so on. And implemented, you can run up the score and gain an insane amount of extra lives. Well, and they are using the same rules for speedrunning the game at Twin Galaxies, but most speedrunners are not submitting times to TG, as they see speedrun.com as having more clout, more prestige, and is definitive than TG, as they're not using those same rules. Hands off to Jim Patzer for having to navigate all those rules to get a house high on that game. I also have the distinction of causing more rules to be added to games than any other player. And usually, after my scores get beaten. The only way I can retake any of these scores after new rules get implemented is pure luck of the bonuses awarded. So you could once CC a game 100 times but fail to win the lottery of whatever bonus was gotten that beat the score you previously had. There are several games I've stopped playing entirely because of human added rules. I cannot view the runs that beat my scores unless the player puts it on YouTube to see that they followed the newly implemented rules if I am dubious of the score they got. While Arcade usually follows the lead of Twin Galaxies, sometimes they will go on their own way with different sets of rules. Twin Galaxies will allow running up the score to maximum on the second level of Nitro Ball. Arcade won't allow it. Arcade created a rule for Riot where you had to beat the first boss by 70 ticks of the time left and progress further than the current house high holder. Twin Galaxies does not have such a rule. The game called Boomeranger has Twin Galaxies record the flat-out in-game score. Arcade set up a unique system where points only matter in a tiebreaker after how many letters you've collected. Remains to be seen who will chase the house high on that one. There's likely several other examples, but these are off the top of my head. On the flip side, TG is trying to retroactively change the rules on games like Pyros, aka Wardner, because someone can run up the score on a level and earn extra lives to repeat the level indefinitely until the score maxes out. Arcade put the rule in from the outset. But because they already accepted scorers without the rule, they're in the dilemma of having to throw everything into the historical database and start over, or just make a new track with the added rule. Another game TG tried to close the barn door well after horses escaped is Domino Man. Players can get unlimited points by setting up and removing dominoes, essentially marathoning the game forever. Because this was put in a tournament, the issue emerged, leaving TG red-faced as they did allow this. They don't take scores on this game anymore. At least, not that I've seen. The point I'm making is, could more and more scores be accepted in one house but rejected in another? And then what? I could start submitting the scores that Arcade won't take to TG and see if they would take them. So why am I upset about having a score DQ'd for padding on a game like Cyberlip? From what I've witnessed over time, quite some time, is the rules on scoring has been an inconsistent hodgepodge patchwork that seems to allow everything on one game but not another. I haven't cared for double standards. No one does. So when it feels like I'm speed running into a double standard, I have to squawk about it. There's nothing out of line in my run that others can't do also, including the person who has the house high still. And the score I did get before the game crashed is pretty easily beatable. You start with 3 lives, get 1 extend and no more. There's a time limit on the first 2 levels. Everything else auto-scrolls. And you're unlikely to get a certain number of points in that level if you run the clock to almost 0. I am not a speedrun player. I am a high score player. There are games that are set up where it's programmed to track fastest completion time, such as racing and fighting games, without scoring. But the one thing that does not exist in the scoring community, there are no tracks for having the lowest 1cc scores. Maybe that's what you really desire to track. If high scores do not matter, then establish new tracks with those rules. Who can 1cc the game with the fewest amount of points? If that is what is most impressive. I mean, do it on games you think players are unfairly ranking the scores up on. Let's see if anybody plays under those rules. But I also want to have anything goes tracks as well. Or at least not be so hard-nosed about how I got my score. Sans a major glitch. Now there was a lamenting last minute of all the low-hanging fruit, with so many games on the arcade floor. Well, why do you lament this when I pick one of these fruits, get hand-slapped for picking it, and it's snatched away before I even can get a bite in because I climbed up on something to reach it? It's the classic have your cake and eat it too. And I am starving here. Join me on podcast tonight. someone who has started a new scoring house, and I've already submitted some of those scores that have been rejected, representing the One Up Arcade in Australia, is Stephen Holmes. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on board.
There you go. Did I catch you off guard, or what happened?
Yes, sir, I can hear you clear. Am I coming through?
Okay, because I was like introducing you,
Hello.
then put you on the screen. Stand by. Test 1, 2, 3.
Seems you've got a lot of lag.
Okay. Well, I hope it catches up a little bit. So you listen to my, I guess, rant. Okay.
Okay, how are we going this time?
Looks like it's much better. Looks like the lag has been, now it's been caught up, I guess. Can you hear me okay? Well, you're in Australia.
I'm not sure.
All right. Well, let's just go this way. I'll ask the question. I'll just wait for a 20-second lag. Oh, great. Well, this is going to be fun. So let's just start off. What was your reaction to my, I guess, editorial comments? I may have to type the questions out, unfortunately, because they seem to be going through faster than the actual video.
Off. So it seems like we've got a lot of lag, so I'll do a little bit of a monologue. But yeah, sorry to hear about your disqualification on the side of it there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so look, I guess that's the world of arcade scoring, especially when you're looking at the pointy end of records and world records. How do you create rule sets that work for 5,000 different games? The people creating the rule sets, unless you've played the game, unless you're very familiar with that game, how do you create an appropriate rule? So I know hundreds of games which I could perhaps create a rule set for scoring, but that leaves thousands that I don't know the game well enough to really create appropriate rules. So yeah, it is a tricky one, and I'm not sure there's a perfect answer to that, which is probably why it hasn't been answered yet.
Now, you started your own score tracking site. Tell us about it. Or you started your own score tracking site. Tell us all about it. And I'm going to throw it up on the screen here.
Yeah, so the website is called Coin Up Wars, Wars standing for Worldwide Arcade Ranking System. And I guess it was to fill a gap in scoring where you have Arcade, Twin Galaxies, other scoring houses, and they tend to focus on world records, and everything's the very serious end of town, and everyone's playing for sheep stations. And as you mentioned with your introduction, it's difficult for players to get access to a cabinet at all venues to pull the board out to get that footage. But that's what a lot of these other scoring houses revolve around. I saw the need for a scoring platform that was far more just accessible, approachable, and really community-based. So I had some clear values in place, which is really to create a system that supports attending venues, rewards skill, and also rewards sort of that integrity of playing fairly, being involved with the community, and mixing with others. So what it's meant for us, we launched this on June 9th, so we're just over a month in, and we're seeing more scores per day come in now than we would have submitted in a month previously. So that's amazing as a start. We've had players come in now doing like multiple day, binge sessions of play, which is also amazing to see. That they're sparked up and they're passionate, and the whole system works in real time. So that's exciting from the point of view of you put a score in and everything's immediate. Your points are allocated. Some points can be allocated or adjusted later with a manual reviewing process, but 95% of everything happens automated and real time. So you have a ranking across the whole system, and you also have your position on scores within your local venue and other arcades. So more than all sorts of arcades around the world, and all sorts of players can participate in this. If your local arcade isn't currently represented, just reach out and get in touch through the oneuparcade.com.au website, and we can look to add your arcade in there.
Now, you just launched this, and I was ranked 3rd as of last weekend, and now I'm suddenly dropped to 12th as of today. Somehow. And my number of points seems to have dropped way down. I had about, 600 more player points. What happened there? Did my scores get beat, or what? Or is there an adjustment?
Yeah, so with the points, we had an algorithm update yesterday, and the algorithm update, it was a major update. So it was basically a balancing calculation that came in to account for the competitiveness on each score. So obviously, if you put in a score on a game which has no other scores, that weighs in less than if you just put a score in on Donkey Kong and there's 100 other scores in the system. So now, and as you mentioned, your points have dropped, but that's relative to everyone. Everyone's points dropped a lot with this, because until there's a number of scores in for each game, those scores will scale up. So the best way to think about the system is it's like it's kind of like the butterfly effect, and it's very alive, and everything's constantly moving. So just because you put scores in and you stop doesn't mean your score's going to stand still. As new scores come in and push you further or up or down the ladder, as your positioning of holding a record or even being first, second, third place changes, your score will adjust on the fly. So and vice versa, your score will go up. So if you put the only score in on Golden Axe, but then in a week's time there's 20 scores on Golden Axe, one, your score is going to scale up to its full value because now there's a good representation of competition on that game. And secondly, your score will adjust according to where it is now. You might have been first or second before, but maybe you're fifth now, or maybe you're still first. So everything's always constantly moving in an ebb and flow, but it's all based around the achievement of how well you've scored in the game relative to your arcade and then relative to all arcades. With home scores that you just mentioned then in the chat, so we wanted to include home play as well, and it is always a dicey thing. How do you fit in playing on MAME or playing at home versus arcades? The two obviously do fit into the same world, but they're it's just making that marriage work, the two scores. So I wanted to acknowledge and recognise home play, and for that reason, home scores can go into this system, and they count for a 25% point value of what a venue score is. Ultimately, we want people to go to arcades, we want people to support arcades and play at venues. If that wasn't happening, then this just becomes a hobby in everyone's bedroom. So it's important to get people out of the venues. But those home scores do matter. So if you only occasionally can get to arcades, you'll be getting full points when you play out there, but your play at home will be building up a bank of points. And those points come in at 25% value and can only be a maximum of 25% of your arcade earned points. So you can actually stock up all these home points, and then let's say you go to an arcade and get 100 points, it'll draw from that bank of home points and you'll get 125 points, if that makes any sense.
Okay, so if I play the game at an arcade that's not in the system yet, let's say the Arcadia in McLean, Illinois, which is always talked about as a stop on the way up between St. Louis and Chicago in America. If I play a game over there and it's not on the site, do I still list it under home, or do I submit to have the arcade added even though I'm not the owner of the arcade? And there's the time delay again. Sorry for the viewers at home watching.
You could submit to have it added. This system doesn't necessarily lean on the arcade owners to need to make everything work. Because I know as an arcade owner, you're very busy and you've got more than enough things to do every day. And someone coming along going, "Hey, we've got this great new system, and you've got to do this, this, and that to be involved." It's just one or two or three more things they don't have time to do. This is a player-driven and a community-driven system. So if you want to play at arcade XYZ that's not current in the system, get in touch with us and we can look to add them. And then when you play a game there, you can submit that as a score at that venue, and it'll go underneath that venue. It'll go in against the other players at that venue. So yeah, it really is player-driven and community-driven.
So, compared to America's arcade scene, what is the arcade scene like down under? And I wanted to do the introduction of playing that minute work song. I come from a land down under, and like, it's the stupid daggum copyright and content matching and the stupid rules of Twitch and YouTube is like flagging, oh, it's illegal usage of a song, and they block the video. It's like all that crap. But my question is, what's the arcade scene like in Australia? Boy, there's a long lag. I can't believe it. 2, 3.
Yeah, the arcade scene here, I would say it's quite different, certainly a lot smaller. From a point of view of arcade operator and looking to purchase machines and so on, I would say we at least have 1,000 to 1 less arcade machines, down here to what you have in the US. I see over there's auction houses auctioning off hundreds of machines on a monthly or weekly basis. It's phenomenal, the amount. In the 7 years we've been open, I haven't seen one place that's had more than 100 machines for sale at any point. So the scale is completely different. So that makes it hard from an operator point of view, getting the games and so on, but it does trickle down to the culture of arcades. When I opened one up in 2017, the primary reason for doing so is there weren't arcades anymore. We had the modern arcades, which were all built around kiddie games and ticket redemption and kind of like play games to win a prize. But there were no classic arcades, and there was nowhere we could go. If you wanted to play Frogger, if you wanted to play Golden Axe, if you wanted to play Shinobi, if you wanted to play Street Fighter 2, there was nowhere I knew that you could go and do that. It did not exist anymore. Those games were out of circulation, and only the cinemas retained the popular racing games like Daytona and so on, and maybe the shooting games like Point Blank. But everything was completely out of rotation, out of circulation for a good 10 years, maybe longer. And I think that was long enough to impact on the culture a little bit as well. There's a bit of a gap in the culture. We have that 35 plus, which remember arcade games and they really connect with it. And then there's the gap, and then it comes through to people in their 20s where it's just more of a retro novelty and something new. And a few of those younger players are actually getting into it, and that's really great to see. But it's a new thing for them. It's a new discovery, and the culture wasn't there. So it has been challenging, but at the same time, that also makes it rewarding to do because there needed to be a place where you could go and experience all those titles again.
What got you into
through the chat here?
what got me I gotta say it out loud for the viewers at home because
games that hooked me.
Stand by 1 second. Yeah, I have to kind of telegraph the next question I'm going to ask you because of this, I guess, 5, 10, 20-second lag, which sucks, but I'm going to have to wing it the best I can. I will feed you the question, but I guess I got to say it for the viewing audience because they can't see the private chat we have. So, the question I was asking, I fed you early just because of the lag. What got you into gaming, and what was the first arcade game that really hooked you and got you into gaming in the first place? Mine was Space Invaders. Sorry for the lag with the viewing audience.
For me, yeah, it's hard to say the game that hooked me, but certainly what got me into arcades. I think I was born at the right time. When I was 10 years old, it was the mid to late 80s, and arcades were in full swing. Of course, we had the golden age, and then that lull perhaps of sort of 83, 84, 85. But then from 86 onwards, arcades really started to boom. And yeah, and that was the perfect age for me. What 10-year-old or 11-year-old doesn't want to play arcade games and video games. So that culminated with my family relocating town. So I went, had a new school, didn't know anyone. So of course the arcade was the perfect place I could go, hang out, and spend my time. And it was that social aspect of it too that was so appealing. My friends started to revolve around the arcade. That's where I met people, and that we would socialize, interact. And I think arcade stuff demised from the early '90s, and particularly probably from '94 when the first PlayStation came out. Everyone, I think, thought, "Oh, I can get that same level of video game at home. I don't need to go out anymore." And we didn't notice that over the next decade, we lost that social connection of attending arcades and playing and catching up with your mates. So it's interesting the direction that things went there. But games, as you can probably see in the background here, I've got Shinobi running. That's certainly 1987. That was a big title for me. And yeah, as a young kid who doesn't want to be a ninja. But so many games. Golden Axe, the Neo Geo system coming out, that was amazing. Cyberloop, that you've been playing yourself, I remember first seeing that. And all those launch titles, Nam, Magician Lord, Ninja Combat, that came out on the Neo Geo platform, that was amazing. The Ninja Turtles arcade game, Street Fighter 2, and then that really set arcades on a new path as well.
Cody has crashed the stream again. My cat. He's on my lap. He's licking my feet. Ugh. This idiot. Yeah, this goofball. Interfering in my stream again, as usual. Sheesh. Always does this. Devious. Anyway, because he hopped in my lap, I did not get to telegraph my next question, but who are the top gamers in Australia? Yeah, there's a lag, audience. Sorry about that.
Top gamers in Australia, that's a good question. So we have some strong players at our venue. Certainly, I hate naming people because you'll forget people and feel bad. We have James Morris, Ryan McClurg. They're always really, you'll see them coming up in arcade wars frequently. Incredible players, set amazing scores. Dennis Edmonds. We've got a new player who's only started coming recently, Peter Petrona, and he's unbelievable with shmups, but also a talented player across so many different games. And then other venues, John Tannehill, Neil Cairns. And this is just in Brisbane. So then there's its own scene in Sydney and Melbourne as well. It's just a lot of players. Some stick to, I guess, smaller genre of games, and some play more widely. There's an event coming up in early September, Battle of the Arcades, and that's an event between different arcade venues. So that sees those players, I guess, have to play 10 games that aren't always in their wheelhouse, aren't always the games they would go to. And that's always good for bringing people out and seeing who can play and lend their skills to new genres. So we've actually had a win on that in the last couple of years, so we'll be defending to try win that again this year.
You mentioned Battle of the Arcades, and the last time Galvin Ghost I guess the last one that was kind of worldwide, that was not limited to just Australia and New Zealand. Galloping Ghost was involved in, I guess it was 2018 or so. I wanted to participate in that on Team Galloping Ghost, but I hadn't won Gamer of the Year, and they were inviting all the former Gamers of the Year first. They had first dibs. So, okay, maybe not this year. Maybe next year. Maybe I'll field a team at another arcade like, I don't know, the Arcadia in McLean, Illinois. Or maybe Underground Retrocade or an arcade in St. Louis. But there hasn't been another Battle of the Arcades. Why is that? Because I wanted to do that, and it's like I didn't get to do that. Four, three. Wow, 10-second lag.
It's a great event, and I haven't been involved with any of the international ones, so I don't know how logistically would handle that with the time zone differences and so on. Because when we do play in Australia, one of the exciting things about it is everyone's playing at the same time. We start at the same time, and we all finish scores in finishes at the same time. But if we could make that work, I think it'd be exciting, certainly for the players over here, if we could be competing with, major arcades in the US. Obviously, Doc at Galloping Ghost and Scott at Underground Retrocade. I'm not sure if other arcades on the west side, like Fun Spot, get involved in this sort of thing. But it'd be really great to bring in as many venues as possible. Prince Arcade as well, and run an event like that.
I know in the previous year, Grinkers in Idaho was a participant, but unfortunately, Grinkers is no more, so they're out. There seems to be more arcades opening up lately, although arcades that were pretty well known got taken out by the COVID virus. So the COVID virus played havoc with a bunch of arcades and caused some of them to go away, and their collections ended up being sold off to other arcades. For those who weathered the storm, they kind of picked up some new games. Other people, I guess, once the world got opened up, and don't get me started on how governments handled the COVID crisis, because they did not do it the right way, in my opinion. But that's a topic for another day and probably another type of stream. But anyway, instead of that, we have the Arcade Wars, which Galloping Ghost was kind of took an early lead in this year, but then they kind of hit a problem where it's like a bad modder prevented participation in one game. That'd be Puzzle Bobble. There was this idiot down here is complaining again. There was a game called Wonder Boy 3, which I didn't know existed. There's a question of who actually had a board of this. But then again, we find out maybe they're not playing on an actual board. They're playing on, let's say, a Pandora's box device that had the game on it. I know Doc is a purist and wants to play on original arcade hardware, no emulation whatsoever, no multi-game PCBs. But now we got Blazing Star, and we're halfway through July. Well, 1/3 through July, and nobody's put a score on this game. Actually, you haven't either. Wait a minute. What happened there? You haven't One Up Arcade hasn't put up a score on this yet? And Underground Retrocade has the big lead early on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that. Our Blazing Star appears to have gone AWOL. So when we're choosing games each month, we try to sort of collaborate amongst a number of the venues and come up with which games will feature. This is the first game that we're featuring for a second time. So we've been running the competition now, I think this is the 58th month. I'm not sure how many years that is, 5 years or something. But yeah, so Blazing Star was chosen, and we did have an art in one of our Neo Geo cabinets, but it turns out it's not. So I think we're trying to get that addressed today, so we've got the machine back up and running, and our players can get some scores in. But yeah, great fun shooter, and it's been really fun running the Arcade Wars comp. It's good to have something that does bring venues players together and allows them to, not just play against their friends locally, but rub shoulders with people across the world. And for us, that's meant including options of Pandora's box, because it's more important for people to be able to participate than fighting over the nuances of original hardware. In this instance, I understand the reason for having original hardware, and we do that in our own arcade. But it's for this sort of competition, we really want people to be able to play and to enjoy themselves.
And this is how it looks right now. The Garcade, the new kid on the block, which they've been open a few years, but Jim Patzer, who I'll talk about a little bit later on in this podcast a little bit. Well, actually, I'll just say it now. He's kind of one of the main contenders for Gamer of the Year. He led the charge to have Garcade participate in the Arcade Wars. And look where they're at. Up top of the leaderboard. Galloping Ghost Arcade is slipped to 4th place, and they're not even on the board. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not going to get over there until, I don't know, the weekend of the 2020. Gosh, when am I going over there? The 20th and the 21st. So it's going to be another week and a half before I get a GGA on the scoreboard, I guess. So how are you picking the games to be the game of the month?
And speaking of that, I guess, and
lag time, of course.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have a group chat with a lot of the arcade operators, and we sort of put forward game ideas, and it's always hard to choose because we need to choose a game that all the venues kind of have. It kind of rules out special control games that use guns, and racing games, because unless you have an original cabinet, those games don't work. So it really needs to be something that can be played on a joystick most of the time, unless I think we've done Centipede in the past because it's that prolific, it's that common that enough of the arcades have access to that machine. But yeah, speaking of getting over to Galloping Ghosts, part of our team that we have here in one arcade in Brisbane, we've got Bryce, who's our tech, and he does amazing work on all our machines and keeping them running, which is just, as you can understand, an incredible job. And Marcus is our floor manager. He operates the day-to-day at the arcade. I'm in there usually once a week. And Marcus is doing a trip to the US this month. He's leaving next week. So he's planning to be in at Galloping Ghost, I think, on the 30th of July. So if anyone is in the area, I'm sure he'll be setting lots of scores. And yeah, be happy to catch up and say hi to everyone.
I'm going to show a walkthrough video of your place, but you mentioned somebody's coming over from Australia to GGA. I'd wondered if he was going to make it for the anniversary week, but it looks like he's going to get there 2 weeks early. Probably head home before anniversary week. But I'll ask you this. What do you think Game 1000 is going to be at Galloping Ghost? So it'll be on the 30th. Yep.
That's a good question. Game 1000 for Galloping Ghost. Wasn't game 900, I think. Was that the R360? I know the R360 was a major release. I'm not sure. You would imagine it's going to be something very special, something out of the deep, out of the vault. But I can't think what that would be. Yeah, but I'm sure Doc has something very special up his sleeve.
Oh, that's what it was. Firefox. I said Mad Dog McCree too. That was incorrect. But that's Firefox is what the game was for 900. So not sure what game 1000 will be. Okay. I've thrown my predictions in. What are some of the games you have that Galloping Ghost doesn't have? So we get this video up.
I'm not sure. When I went to Galloping Ghost last personally, that was 2018. I think there was maybe 600 games. So obviously they have a lot more now. But I know there's been a few. There's been one or two games that were proposed. Obviously, Wonder Boy 3 is one of them. But there has been a few games that were proposed for Arcade Wars, and Galloping Ghost hasn't had those games. So we had a game Roga, Rohga. I think it's also known as Wolfang. Now, that game, I don't think Galloping Ghost has. Shinru? I'm not sure if we Galloping Ghost with Shinru. What else? Kind of handy seeing this video because it helps jog the memory of what we have. We have a gacha champ, which is like one of those Japanese sort of like point blank with joysticks puzzle game. I'm not sure if Galloping Ghost has Paradiver, and yeah, a few others.
I did look. So your game list is on arcade.com. But it needs to be updated because it's a 5-year-old list. Yeah, this is the Brisbane list. Yeah, it needs an update soon. Well, you have Real Belt Fail Fury. Looks like Road Fighter 3D. Yeah, Shinryu, as you mentioned. Virtual Fighter Remix is an arcade game. Yeah, Wonder Boy Monster World. That's Wonder Boy 3. Yep, you got that. Psychonix Oscar. Don't know that one. Knights of Valor 2. Here, Legend of Hero Tomna. I think you said that. Guilty Gear X. Greca. I think you mentioned this one too, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, but it starts with a G. It's a title game. Oh, it's Japanese only. Figures. Of course. Why wouldn't it? But you've had some others. And we're looking at this video. This is got a lot of candy cabs. You got some nice pinball machines there. Gosh, you got a lot of candy cabs. GGA doesn't have any. Some of these cabs look pretty different. I haven't seen some of these, like these cabinets here. I haven't seen Neo Geo cabs that look like these. Were these official releases or were they custom? Or is it just Australia?
Yeah, well, I guess that's an interesting thing to discuss. So, one of the major differences with arcade in Australia is we didn't always get the dedicated cabinets that you got in the US. You'll notice the early releases of the early 80s games like Space Invaders, Centipede, and so on, they have dedicated cabinets. But as we move through to the late 80s and 90s, you'll see these cabinets that are in different colors, red, blue, green. There were local companies that made the arcade cabinets, and then they would just sell a kit. So the kit would consist of the marquee, maybe some basic control panel artwork, and the PCB. And then the operators would change over games by putting in the new marquee, the new board into we had different cabinets, low boys, fat boys, taller uprights, the LAI, Ninja Turtle style cabinets there. But there was like a dozen or so different cabinet designs, and most games ended up just in these more generic cabinets. So we just didn't get that special treat of all our games being bespoke and in dedicated cabinets. We've imported quite a few from the US, and for that reason, we probably have 40, 50 US made dedicated cabinets, but the rest are actually local Australian cabinets. And you did point out there the Neo Geo cabinets. Our Neo Geo cabinets are different to the US. We have one US Neo Geo there. But the cabinets are made by Leisure Allied Industries, which is probably the biggest company of the day here. And I don't know, I really like the design of the cabinets we have with that red and white theme. They look amazing. The American cabinets, particularly the one we have, ergonomically, the screen's right in your face as you're trying to play with the control down here. It's not the best setup. And one thing I'm thankful for as an operator, all our cabinets have wheels and they're made from plywood. A lot of the US cabinets don't have wheels, which makes it harder to move around, and they're made from that chipboard or particle board, which does start to deteriorate and crumble away. So the cabinets we have will really last forever. They're super strong and sturdy. The Mr. Do that you mentioned is that is an original cabinet. I'm not sure its origin, if it's from Australia or somewhere else, but it's a universal cabinet, and really something quite special.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Matt Hall, who streams as Lord BBH. He commented that he's never ever seen a universal cabinet, and you had one of that configuration. It looks like that's a Mr. Do didn't really get an original cabinet, although that kind of looks the closest to being one to me. Reminder, there's a lag. That's a heavy comment.
Yeah, absolutely. I picked that up off a local collector, and he had some really nice cabinets, and that one, really special, really special.
Let's see, where should I go with this next? Because I've like pre-wrote notes, and then kind of all the scoring issues kind of just took out all my attention for some reason. Well, frustrations do happen, but and there is an updated game list. I said that arcade.com list was 5 years old, but the game list is on the website. I believe all the games are listed here. I think this is all up to date. This is another one GGA doesn't have. This one up here. GGA does not have this one either. Going further. Yep, that one, no. This is just titled differently. Oh, I'm not familiar with this one either. Kind of like, yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. GGA doesn't have it. They have this one, but I think they called it something else.
That one there is actually, that's a Mega Drive game that we've released in the arcade cabinet. So we did Streets of Rage 2 and Thunder Force 4 running off original Mega Drive hardware, but in arcade cabinet.
Okay, because I know Sega put out kind of like the Play Choice 10 that Nintendo put out. Sega did have their own arcade system for Genesis games, although how common is it? Probably not very common because I've never seen one in the wild back in the day. And several of these.
Yes.
This right here, Nom 1975. That was the
So they had
game
an
that
arcade board that was based on the Mega Drive hardware, and one of the notable games on that is Thunder Force 3 or Thunder Force AC. And we have that game. And then it's funny you mentioned that because we just received a what is it called? Megatech cabinet today, literally right delivered today, and that's the 10-in-1, kind of like a Nintendo Play Choice. It's the Sega equivalent.
do want to point out this was the game that was the game of the month before COVID shut everything down. I managed to get a score in, but hopefully this comes up in the rotation since we didn't really get to contest this one. Some of the others, yep, you have all the metal slugs. There's Wonder Boy, Raiden. Looks like I hit all the games. There's another one. GGA doesn't have that one, but that's off the floor. This is another one I don't think you have. GGA doesn't have. At least I don't remember seeing it. That's another one. Yeah, GGA has their own custom Pong, Ghost Pong, but not the original Pong. Is there any games you're on the lookout for? That's like, I don't know, maybe like a holy grail. And
not too many specifically. There's always some. I guess I think Data East had a game, Edward Randy, that I haven't played it, but I've seen footage of it. It looks amazing. Then Namco's, what's it called again? I'll get back to it. The name just escaped me at the moment. Yeah, it's like a Super Smash Brothers style game.
Out Foxies.
That's one I'm on the lookout for. And yeah, I would love to get more of the late era Southland shooters and cave shooters as well. So we have a handful of those as Pro Gear. But yeah, obviously boards are just so expensive to get the original hardware these days. And yes, you're right. Out Foxies was the Namco game. Absolutely looks brilliant. I'd love to have that in the arcade. We did just recently pick up a Darius Burst cabinet, but the boards have issues and they're very uniquely ID'd. Apparently, we can't just do any quick fixes or workarounds to get them working. So that's been a bit of a long project to get them running again. But the cabinet itself is beautiful. It's just got some board issues.
And it uses 4 screens and 4 people can play that game at the same time, and that's been a popular title ever since, I guess. And I've seen it in several different places, believe it or not. I didn't think it was that common of a game. Being how new. Gosh, he's joined me again. He's crashed my stream again. Tension getter. Anyway, now I just came up to Legend of Hero. See, I'm not familiar with this one either. I know GGA doesn't have it. Gosh. Now, have you gone to any arcades in other countries besides the ones in Australia? So I'm still looking through these.
I've been to, so in 2018, I went to the US and I went to Galloping Ghost. I went to the Underground Retrocade, and then I went to San Francisco to the old Coin Up Museum down at Navy Pier there. So it's much more of a museum with just a small range of games to play at the back. Then over at the West Coast to Hotspot, and then just to one or two arcade venues in New York. Um, Other than that, I haven't been to any others in other countries than arcades in Japan. So I've been to Teo and but I haven't been to Mikado, which I'd like to get to next visit. But yeah, just a lot of the Tokyo and Akihabara um, arcades there.
So you have been to Japan? You say you did go to Japan and saw some of the arcades there.
Yes, yes. So Japan a number of times, but 2016 was the last time, so a while ago now.
And this, would you like to go to any of the arcades in Europe? There's the arcade club in the Great Britain, and then there's the arcadery in the Czech Republic, which are pretty much the key ones in Europe that I know of. Lifetime, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd love to. So in the UK, yeah, Arcade Club, I believe, is the biggest. So they're in Leeds and Bury. I was in touch with them for a while, and they were looking to get involved with arcade wars, but I think for those reasons I mentioned before, there's just so many things that arcade operators play. Sort of getting involved in another competition and the wheels you have to turn to make that happen. It's just sometimes it's one thing too much. But I'd love to get over there and see. They're quite sizable, amazing collections, and I'd like to see all those differences of arcades over there. I'm sure there's a few arcades in probably Italy, France. None that I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure there would be some. So I'd be really excited to see those. And I understand there's a few in Poland as well. So I guess it just seems to be these different slices of the world, and everyone sticks to their own bubble to some extent. And it'd be amazing to have a world where players could play. Like we'd love to with coin op wars get some Japanese arcades involved playing. I'm sure the players would be incredible and set some incredible scores. But to break that language barrier and have people putting in scores on games, and being involved where they don't have to speak necessarily, they speak for themselves with their achievements and the scores. That's the sort of community we would like to see.
I can't believe I didn't ask this question from the early outset. What made you what got you to open an arcade in Australia? Or what was the inspiration?
Yes, opening an arcade. Obviously, I must have been having a crazy moment, but it's never the most sensible thing to do. But I think I mentioned earlier, pretty much because such a thing didn't exist. I'm quite certain if an arcade like One Up Arcade existed already, I wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't have been necessary for me. But the fact that all these games, that list of games you're just scrolling through, looking at all those titles, and for me as a child growing up, so many of those resonate with me. Um, and the fact that they were completely and utterly absent to play anywhere except on an emulator, that was the reason for doing it.
This is kind of off. Well, it's not off topic, but being that you're from Australia, there's an event is supposed to take place, kind of maybe the final battle is supposed to happen in Australia. And the final battle is between one Carl Jost and Billy Mitchell. The court case is supposed to be contested this September in Australia. What do you think about that, I guess, long-standing saga that may finally come to an end this fall? Lag time.
I probably can't comment too meaningfully on it because I haven't followed it that closely. I remember some of the disputed events from 5 years ago or more, over his records and such. And I guess the legend's bigger than the reality now when it comes to that. I guess is my take on it. It's more giving people something to talk about and to discuss than really the meaningfulness of how legitimate the hardware was he used or whatever the point's been argued over. So yeah, I think there is a world where people work really hard for records, and it's important that those records integrity is right there behind them, and that they're fairly achieved and then they're acknowledged. But I guess that side of scoring has also brought, it's a double-edged sword. It's brought some of the nasty underside of scoring, the infighting and disputes and so on, which has probably taken, I think, away a lot of the focus and the joy of just playing games. To me, sometimes you're in a mode where you want to just practice on a game, perfect it, and get that best score you can. But other times, you've got 3, 4, 5 games you're just juggling and you're working on, and you play a little bit of this. You just can't stay in that one game all day, so you'll play another one. And sometimes you just want to play new things and you just want to have fun. So to me, going into the arcade and putting in 5 different scores or 5 different games or 10 different scores in a day, that actually means more to me. I can look later and see my achievements and look at where I was playing a month ago and where I'm playing now and how my scores are coming along, rather than everything having to be set up a camera, I'm recording, and I'm playing for the big battle.
I've been following this case or this saga the last several years. I've not kind of joined the fray and making comments about the case. I just like sitting back and watching the fireworks and just kind of. And Cody just bit me. I guess I'm going to have to shoo him off right now. Anyway, this is what I have to use to get him back in line. Idiot. Anyway, I've been watching the fireworks. Yes, I've been around Billy Mitchell multiple times, and I watched him in person topple the Pac-Man world record on the 20th anniversary board, where the score could actually go a little higher than on the original hardware. I was in person when he finally got across the finish line at GGA. I have no beefs with Billy. I kind of lament that maybe so much of this stuff could have been avoided if he just agreed to redo all the scores from the get-go and saved himself all this drama. But it is what it is. Now Twin Galaxies has this historical database. But you can accept scores from Billy Mitchell. He might even visit your arcade after the court case is over. What do you think about that? Would you like to have him come visit?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Funny enough, absolutely. Yeah, come on in. We actually picked up a Miss Pac-Man machine recently, and it's signed by Billy Mitchell on the marquee. So there you go. He can come in and sign our Donkey Kong as well.
Wow. All right. Let's see. What What else did I need to cover anything else? I guess that's it. Any final thoughts? Is there anything, any words of wisdom or any, like, I don't know, arcade stories you want to share that happened in Australia that maybe we don't know about? Lifetime.
No arcade stories in particular that I can think of. But yeah, I guess the underlying thing here is just how we have to some extent the Australian scene, and you have the American scene, and of course there's a scene in Europe and there's a scene in Japan, and the more we can kind of, I think, start to break down those barriers and bridge those gaps, and have our players mixing it and playing in scores and little rivalries. There's nothing better than setting a score and someone beats it and you beat them, and then the third person jumps in the mix. That's, to me, that's the dream when you're playing for scores and playing for fun but competition. So yeah, I'd love to see more of that happening. I hope if everyone has the chance, they can check out Coin Up Wars and pop a few scores in. It's been designed to be as easy and accessible as possible. You literally, play the game. You take your phone out. You take a score, a photo of your score, and submit, and it's in there straight away. And like I said, that score sits in there. It's floating in a system, and it'll bump around as all the moving pieces around it, move. So it's really exciting to watch. I can just see now we've got over at Revival Arcade. Tempest, he's taking the approach of playing as many games as he can. So he's literally put in about 25 scores today. So all happening.
Yeah, I kind of the first weekend I started after I put in all the scores I had done at GGA or snapshotted, and I was playing for tokens over there. Then I started playing for scores because I have arcade games in the back of my garage. Geez, I should just show that video real quick as part of this background. Yeah, now this is kind of not as up to date because I've changed the decor inside the place. There's been some changes around, but the game lineup has not changed. It's just the decor inside. But yeah, I'm like submitting scores from. Yeah, there's the arcade one-ups. I believe scores are being accepted if you play on those. But I do have a few arcade cabinets, although I have limited room in there. So, and yes, I pulled out the. I'm using the 61 board and the Raiden 2 right now, but has the control panel I need. So I have to put in a score for Matt Mania soon, because I don't think you have one, or maybe you do.
I see that you've got Raiden 2 there. Yeah, amazing game.
Yeah, I got to plug that board back in and then put a score in for that sometime soon. But anyway, but yeah, anybody can get into this Coin Up Wars. They just have to sign up for an account. Oh, I thought I had something. I got a banner for this. There it is. There's the banner. I should have put that up there for the outset much earlier when I had that other page up. Yeah, when I had this page up, I should have had this URL on the bottom. But anyway, anybody can get involved. I registered, started submitting scores. Anybody can do it. The only caveat is the score cannot be more than a week old when you submit it. That's the main rule. Apart from getting a good picture of the score you got, and it must be played on 1 credit. Is there anything I missed? Flag time again.
Yes. Yeah, standard rules more or less. Some games will have their own specialized rules, and obviously that becomes a big can of worms to some extent. But we're certainly focusing more so on participation and getting there and putting in scores. But yeah, those games that do have particular sort of exploits and where the score becomes broken, there'll be rules, to manage that, and those rules usually are the same as they might be in Galaxies or Arcade, because most of those rules have been made for good reason. You want to keep things competitive, skill based on playing these different games.
So you might implement the same rules that Arcade and Twin Galaxies implemented. So I can't, let's say, I don't know, Blood Brothers. We'll throw that one as an example. I can't shoot the trees continuously for 20,000 points each, indefinitely.
No, yeah, not if it was something that would essentially break the mechanic of competitive scoring and reduce the game down to just playing for one mechanic, one exploit.
Although everybody can do this. Of course, I guess the question is, yeah, how many broken games are there? It's like, is it the fault of the programmer who put in these little tricks to run the score up? What is it, the fault of the programmer, or is it the fault of the game tester for not finding these game breaking bugs? Or is it the fault of the player?
I think the game development cycle was a lot simpler back then, and I think for the most part they thought they were making games for kids. And they were just experimenting and pushing the boundaries on what was then new technology. So yeah, a lot of the games are broken. I would say maybe 20% are broken to some extent, and maybe 5% are completely broken to the point of being very problematic when it comes to scoring. Look at a game like Karnov, without even leaving the first screen, you can clock out the score to maximum. It kind of breaks that game in some extent.
Well, Karnov, I can't max the score out on the first level of the game. It's much further in that you can maybe do something like that. But once you hit the max out, and it doesn't matter when you hit it, but you can hit it like by the time you reach the last level relatively easily. The best you can do is tie the maximum score. I mean, you could play through the entire game and you still get the same result. If you do it like one level sooner, because the points are plentiful, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's coin collections, kind of like in Super Mario, although they're Ks.
Yeah. There is a exploit where you can use the ladder in the first stage. You might have to scroll a few screens on to get the ladder, but then you can just right from the first, literally where you start the game, you can just keep respawning the ladder and generating points indefinitely. So.
You know what? I've never seen that. Now I have to go looking to see that in action. But I was not familiar with that one at all. But there's some other games that Mercs is another one that has a max out. Bad Dudes. The scoring system in America is much different than the one in Japan. It's a little more generous in America, where basically beating the final boss, you automatically get the max out. Um, some other games that have this maximum score. Is there any others that you kind of, off the top of your head, kind of look at a little more closely?
It's a surprisingly common with data race, actually. A lot of data race games tend to have broken scoring.
What is it? What game is that?
Data East games. So yeah, a lot of them have some broken scoring mechanics.
Okay, it's Data East. Okay, that's what you meant. Okay, I guess that's it. The website is whatuppercade.com.au. You're doing the Arcade Wars, and I guess who do they contact to sign up for Arcade Wars again? Do they just contact the website to sign up for that, or is there a procedure?
So yeah, they can just get in contact through the oneuparcade.com.au website, just the contact form there, or they could reach out to us through Facebook as well. But yeah, certainly would love to see more arcades involved in Arcade Wars each month. It's for those who have played in it, I'm sure you really enjoy the competition, and it's really good to see that having to lend your skills to something new every month, and all those players that are different players come out from month to month, with their skills. Some might be more into shooters, some into puzzle games, early 80s games and 90s games, but yeah, it's always great to see. The trading cards, I do. I've got one of the Alter Day trading cards, yes.
What number is your card?
I don't know what my card number is offhand. It's probably sitting in my office somewhere. I haven't looked at it for several years.
See, now I've memorized my numbers. 178 and 4124. Probably because I've only had two cards over the original card and then the second card 11 years later. But you know what? I'm going to look it up real quick. Stephen Walter Day. I'm going to get that card up, but website is oneuparcade.com.au. Walter Day trading card collection. Shoot. The other biggest band down there in Australia, which I do listen to, which I gosh, I haven't found it yet. Midnight Oil. That band is still around. That was like an 80s band in America, but they're still churning out music all the time. It's not in here. Interesting.
Yeah.
I searched on your name, but I haven't. There. Hell. There's this. It hasn't given me the doggone number of the card. Well, it's got to be in here somewhere.
That's interesting.
I gotta search.
That looks like it.
Yeah, but they didn't give you it doesn't say the card number. It just says this is, I guess they did a ceremony.
Yeah, August 10th, 2019, that's the one.
Yeah, they did ceremony, but I don't have the actual card number you had. Well, I'll have to get it later, it looks like. Doggone it. I wish I could. Well, unfortunate, but I'll find it later. It's got to be here. I'll get it later. Let's just put Stephen Holmes. Well, maybe I'll see you someday. Maybe I'll meet you someday if you come to next time you come to America. Unfortunately, I'm afraid of flying, so I doubt I'm gonna make a plane trip to Australia. So I don't know. The place I'd want to go is Japan because that's where all the good video games come out of. I have flown, but it did not, my fear of flying did not dissipate. It got worse. The place I did fly was Florida for the Nintendo World Champion or Campus Challenge.
Not a problem. Well, look, thank you so much for having me on the show, Stephen. And yeah, it's been a pleasure catching up and chatting, and for taking the time. And for everyone watching at home, apologise for the lag. Hopefully, this has still come through okay.
It's 10:30 p.m. in America on a Thursday night. It is 1:30 p.m. in Friday the 12th in Australia Eastern Time. That is quite a time difference. And this is the first podcast where I had to advertise two different dates for a live broadcast. But I've interviewed somebody from Canada and United Kingdom, and this is the first interview. This is the third country I've done an interview with a gamer, and so this is like the third continent, because Australia's a continent besides being a country. Yeah, a little international flavor, but I was glad I got to meet you here tonight. Go ahead, if you can. Lag.
Yeah, likewise. Well, thank you again, and yeah, hopefully have the opportunity to get over there. And if I do, I'll certainly reach out, and yeah, we'll have to catch up for a few games.
All right, Stephen Holmes of One Up Arcade in Australia. Thank you for coming in tonight. All right, we had this long time lag. Oh, somebody is not 10 in America. Well, the clock says 10:30 p.m. That's what you're talking about. It's Central, 10 o'clock Central Time. I'm talking about Australia has multiple time zones. So I said Australian Eastern Time, which is a separate time zone, in Australia. Yes, it's divided up into multiple time zones. There's an Eastern Time there's a specialized Eastern Australian Time. I looked it up. Just saying. Anyway. Anyway, let's go back. So, a little bit of an update. I gotta get the banner off. I didn't know there was gonna be this big of a lag between Australia and America, but then again, it's halfway around the globe. Europe or United Kingdom is technically closer to America in the number of miles. I think. I'm not sure. Do want to look at this before we get out of here. Well, the chase for tokens. Yeah, I'm inching my way up. Still have not eclipsed 6,700, although I think a score got entered incorrectly and it screwed it up. Otherwise, I would be over there. However, looking at these tokens, I do have to make a major revision. Oh, I got to look at this first. Power rankings for mid-July. I had to manually fix this because, yes, a score got typoed and then kind of didn't fix itself. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I was ranting about the scoring and trying to dig out of the hole I'm in. But this is how things stand. I know Andrew picked up a few extra picked up 3 high scores today, so this number up top should be 190. And this is where I should be right now, 12th place. Still, not that Cyberlip score got accepted, then I'd be in 11th place. But I have to sit and wait and run over there again. Good grief. It's going to be another wait before I can even try to play. Hopefully, the arcade game's working and I can play. But this is the final month. This is mid-July, the final month of the 14th season of Galloping Ghost Arcade. And so we go into the final month as we head into T20. And this is my revised prediction. Who has the best chance of winning Gamer of the Year at Galloping Ghost? Right now, I have upped my percentage for the player who upsets Zurst at T20. If somebody upsets Zurst for T20 and becomes the third person to win a T20 championship, that is not going to be an easy task. Whoever. Now, I know that Eric Pearl will be making his return to the T20 tournament again this year. Mossy Zagopian says he is sitting out this year, so he will not be there. Still waiting to hear about John Liming possibly entering the tournament. Will he be back this year? Because he was 1 point away from upsetting Zurst last year. If he did beat out Zurst, he probably would have gotten Gamer of the Year. Yeah, 1 single point away. So we'll have he's going to be, this is going to be, I don't know, will we have a repeat of what happened last year? I don't know. We'll have to see this. Andrew Wasco, who still took the Ghost Rider position. Now, here's the thing. This is the first time where I've put a percentage higher than Andrew. Yes, he has a 20% chance. He's always going to be in the running. His resume is not as strong as it was last year. There was particular things that he did last year that were not doable this year because he accomplished the feat last year. Fastest T20, fastest 10X season before the 10X title was retired. Obviously, he surpassed Pete Hahn for the Ghost Rider position. That was last season. He didn't do it, so that is not on the table for this season. So his resume is not as strong as it was because he already accomplished his feats last year. Jim Patzer, of course, still in the running. I've raised his stake a bit. So right now it's a 3-way. Highest chance is Zurst being upset at T20 at 25%. Now, that's not average. If somebody did that, then it's going to be automatic. They get Gamer of the Year, in my opinion. But right now, if nobody upsets Zurst for T20, then it's going to be pretty much a 3-way race between Owasco, Patzer, who came on strong this year and kind of broke, as I said it earlier, he's sitting at number 10 in the power rankings. He broke into the power rankings at number 10. Eric Pearl, of course, is 1 spot ahead at number 9. But there's also the possibility that nobody wins the Gamer of the Year award. And that the fact that the Galloping Ghost regulars have not participated, or at least not really fighting for the arcade the last few months. And last year wasn't all that, was kind of, it was a rough year for Galloping Ghost last year on the doggone Arcade Wars. In fact, I got to look. It's like last year, Arcade Wars. Galloping Ghost was like, I don't know. Oh, they were in third, tied for third place, losing out to 1UP Arcade, and then the Garcade in second place, which, even with GGA having a head start, playing in Arcade Wars 11 times versus Garcade 6 times. Well, they only need to play in Arcade Wars 6 times to get in the second. And obviously, they're running away with it now. And they've already qualified, so they're going to guarantee at least second place at this moment. But GGA's not on the board. And because of that, let's say the lack of defending the honor of the arcade, I put no one winning the belt. This is the highest I put, no one winning the belt. We could have a vacant Gamer of the Year next year, this coming August the 13th. We'll have to see. I've removed my name, and I've also removed James White's name. Nora Vale and Chris Bolcher, who neither one of them have held the Galvin Ghost GGA Gamer of the Year title. I put them in at 5% each. Someone else winning it, 5% on that. So that's how it looks right now. That's how I see the final month going into T20. And I mentioned this earlier, but Retrocade's raised that score a bit. It's now over 7 million combined, led by Jamie Tibbetts, who is going to probably be a T20. But here we go. The Missouri Game Con. This is at Greenfelder Recreation Complex in Manchester, Missouri. And I'll have my own vendor table. It's on the 27th. It's opened at, well, early access starts at 10. I'm going to have to get up early, drive down to Manchester, Missouri, and set up my vendor table because I got stuff to sell. Gaming paraphernalia and stuff. So this is the 8th Missouri Game Con. Well, I may be too tired to get up and drive up to Chicago for the Power Stone tournament. That's going to be tough. But sign up is going on now. BladeWarsTournament.com. 4 p.m. start time. Sunday, July 28th. This will be the second Power Stone tournament. Because the Blade Wars tournament has grown. And this event. And right now, well, Xerstus won 8 out of 9. This is the 10th annual T20 tournament. And right now, the streak is, I have a streak. So does he. He's won the last 3 T20s. I've won the last 3 side tournaments. Xers sat out 2020. Being the, but I was not going to let, if somebody's going to sit out, I mean, I'm not going to sit out just because there's a virus that I might catch. I can't worry about stuff like that. And turns out I was right. I did things correctly. I never really got harmed by the COVID virus. So, and I got a T20 title out of the deal. But going further on, the Kansas City, Missouri has their retro convention, pinball and cosplay, at the Overland Park Convention Center. That's in the Kansas side. So that's crossing over into Kansas, the Kansas side of Kansas City. That will be the last weekend of August. I thought about going, but I'm going to be tied up with other things, unfortunately. And I got to hide this. I'm going to put this in a different perspective here. October. So, starting this weekend, October 12th and 13th, Rockford, Illinois. And this is a rather new convention, Rock River Valley Video Game Convention at the Cliff Breakers Conference Center. That's in Rockford. So there's that weekend. And then, if you're running the conventions, you pretty much are going to be up there in Northern Illinois the entire weekend. Cody's rejoined me, this idiot. So a one-day break, or after the 13th, the Rock River Valley Convention, you can pack up and go straight over to Schaumburg to set up for the 40th annual Pinball Expo. Yeah, a little bit of a combined thing going on, I think. Starts on the 15th. Now, they added Tuesday to accommodate factory tours and stuff, but they're going to start setting up on Tuesday, and then open convention floor on Wednesday the 15th and run through the 19th. And I will be defending my Galvin Ghost Pinball Expo Championship. Once again, I'll be, I got to cut some promos and stuff. And maybe finally I'll have my rematch against James White and maybe avenge my loss from 2 years ago. But I certainly didn't get the C2E2 title from him. And who's my guest next week? Well, because my mind was on the not the scoring stuff, I had to say, oh, okay, I forgot. Sorry, I forgot. I got to mention this. All right, let's address this for a second. JP Pitts, I'm going to send you the link. I want you to join the stream for a second. Did you have to dress up or something?
David Lucas.
You're over at the pinball place. Okay. Did I catch you at a bad time?
No, I'm just getting ready to wrap things up.
All right. So what did you want to, did you have something you wanted to say about the best of 7?
I was referring to the last best of 7 that you had in my podcast.
Oh, yeah, that disaster.
all I gotta say is, I mean, if that went down in my podcast, are you even gonna have? Are you gonna? Is this gonna motivate you to go head to head against me? Because I think I'm like one level ahead of Norbert, so I'm a whole different ball game. So
ahead of Norbert. Well, on Power Stone, probably, maybe Mortal Kombat, but on every other fighting game, that remains to be seen. And it's gonna be the luck of the draw.
We shall see. We shall see.
You may not get Power Stone this time. You might not get Mortal Kombat, any of them. You might get Street Fighter or Tekken or Soul Calibur. Or maybe World Heroes. Or Waka Waka 7.
I think the last time we've played Soul Calibur Tekken 3, what happened there, Steven?
What
happened there? What happened there?
Did we play Tekken 3?
Soul Calibur, I think Tekken 3, yeah. That was like an exhibition. But what happened there?
I don't know. Bad luck. Or maybe a little rusty. I don't know.
Well, I mean...
It wasn't a clean sweep, but you...
Let's see if you have it the next time you come around. I actually want to see some competition. And I've been looking forward to this. Hopefully you don't get Mortal Kombat or Power Stone, but who knows? You never know. But I want to see some hardcore stuff coming out of you. Norbert's a different guy. I'm on a different level.
Norbert's a juggernaut.
Well, who says that I'm not?
Well, the first time I played you, it didn't seem like it.
Okay.
And the second time around, I mean, the luck of the draw really helped you.
Oh, and anything can happen, right? Who knows?
Anything can happen. And there's a few more fighting games in there.
Exactly.
And yeah, I got stuff to practice.
Get practice.
I don't know if I can hit everything.
Exactly.
And I tried to practice for Norbert. It's like, this is the problem. Joystick inputs don't register 100% of the time. That bugs me. Yeah, I don't know how Norbert can get it to happen every time.
This is the difference between me and you versus Norbert. You have plenty of time to play against and practice against Norbert with the games. The games were selected. Me and you, when we're playing, they're random. So I would remember that if I were you. When you were
Well, of course it's random. I set it up that way.
exactly. So yeah.
You're cutting out badly.
Just saying. No, that pinball. Yeah, pinball's got like we're fixing up the internet over here.
Okay. Get that connection stable.
So yeah,
Or stand in one spot so it doesn't deviate the signal. Anyway.
We'll do.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. All right. Have you patched things up between you and Brandon?
That's confidential, and I would like to. I wish not to get into that.
Do I have to stand in? Do I have to get between you two and I don't know, hold a summit to make peace between you two?
There's nothing. I don't have nothing wrong with anybody. I have no issues with anybody. I just prefer not to disclose any information regarding that.
Okay. Otherwise, I might take my shirt. I might take my shirt off.
Uh-oh. Yeah, you're gonna get yourself canceled. Don't get yourself canceled, Steven. We don't need that.
I've already been. What do you think they did to me in the pro wrestling business?
Oh. Well, I'm around that
blackballed
industry.
many times over.
You should catch me wrestling.
I'm probably the second most hated gamer, or maybe the third or fourth. Well, I know there's been great competition for being the most hated figure in gaming lately, but anyway.
Well, you're the heel around here, right? You're the heel around here? Is that what it is? The heel?
I'm not trying to be the villain, but everybody wants to hate on me.
Well, I don't hate on you. You're actually you're one of my greatest competitors in Bloody Wars. We actually love you being in my community. So you're loved, Steven, at least from me. So
all right. Hopefully I'll see you in about a week or so.
Don't forget Bloody Wars, folks. Register at www.bloody-wars-tournament.com. I hope to see Steven there. Well, I mean, I know you got your little convention going, so no pressure at all. But, you know, it'd be nice to see Steven Lucas coming in here for a shot at the belt, you know, because it's a prestigious historical piece. So I know you want another belt on your wall, Steven. So if that's the case, you got to go big or go home. That's what I like to say. Yeah.
Well, it's a doggone uphill climb, and I'm not good, and I don't seem to have the arm strength. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I mean, if you were to if you were want to put yourself at a better contendership for Gamer of the Year, Bloody Wars is a good start.
Well, I think that's I think that ship has sailed for this year.
We'll see.
I have to start.
I mean, there's always next year.
Yes, there's always next year because
the new season, Steven.
The new season starts August 14th.
Exactly.
So there's somebody I'm rooting for to win Gamer of the Year. I'll say that. There's somebody I'm rooting for. I hope they get it.
Who you rooting for? Who you rooting for?
I think when I went through the percentages of who I think has the best chance of winning, kind of narrowed it down.
Oh, well, I thought you were talking about your whoever's gonna have a higher chance of getting Gamer of the Year. I don't know if you have favorites.
Well, of course I'm gonna have an idea of who I think should win it. Doesn't mean Doc Mac's gonna choose that person.
So who would it be?
Oh gosh, this is I don't know. You saw this earlier, or at least I thought you did.
Yeah,
This is-
I mean Andrew looks like he's like the top one so far, and I don't know what your opinions about him with Andrew, but I know he's not your favorite, or maybe he is. But if he's
He's
not,
held it twice. Doc
so he's your
Mack
favorite.
tends to. Andrew's held it twice. His resume, as I stated, is not as strong as it was last year. Plus, Doc has a weighs things towards somebody new winning it.
Right.
So do the math.
Well,
It's gonna.
I feel like.
Why do you think
Well,
I got
no,
this
I get
up
you.
here?
But I mean, I get you. Well, let's put it this way then. Who would you like to see as Gamer of the Year? Because if I were to answer that question, I wouldn't go off of the who's the highest rankings. I mean, if I were to ask myself,
Well, yeah,
who has the better shot, statistically wise, of who's going to get Gamer of the Year, I would have said either Jim Patzer, or if John Limey comes back, he might have a good shot. But if I were to choose someone who I would like to see as Gamer of the Year, I'd say one of my Bloody Wars guys. Maybe Norber has a good chance, former two-time Bloody Wars champ. Damien Cordova's in the picture. He's going for a very good score on this particular game. I like to see Aiden, Israel, all my Bloody Wars guys.
Except that Blade Wars has nothing to do with Gamer of the Year.
Well, I mean, true, and that's true. It is a separate thing from Bloody Wars and Galloping Ghosts, but I feel like, and this is just my own opinion, because we're doing these things, we're doing Bloody Wars in Galloping Ghosts Arcade, I feel like it's part of a community thing for the contender Gamer of the Year. That's just my own opinion. Because not to mention people are not doing it. Not to mention people are not doing anything with Arcade Wars lately. Or what is it, 10X is not in there anymore, and it's just Andrew trying to kill a bunch of scores. We've seen Andrew a bunch of times. I think we need to see some new faces doing some new things. Bloody Wars is obviously one of them. So that's all I got to say.
There needs to be some extra tournaments during the course of the year at the arcade itself, not, let's say, offsite like Pinball Expo or C2E2. So, I don't know.
And my organization has a good name. I mean, it's a great way to build up your resume. We have so many guys, so many of our guys coming in to play each tournament, and there's always going to be competition. It's not like some person going head to head with just one player. No, you got yourself a whole crowd going for one thing. That's what I like.
Right.
Yep. That makes sense.
All right, Josh, thanks for popping in on short notice.
Yes, sir.
Since you
no
brought up the since I'm crashing your podcast the whole time, I gotta return the favor, I guess.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And prepare for me, Steven. Be ready for me, because I'm coming. And you know, with my fighting games, I'm coming in hard. Let's go.
All right. I'll see you later.
See ya.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Crimeycade podcast. I am going to rate a channel. I gotta pick something. Who's streaming right now? Oh, let's go. Oh, gosh, I haven't rated this guy in a while. We're gonna go to Lick Arcade. Maybe I'll have him. You know, I've been talking about maybe teasing, maybe doing a little Fightcade stuff. Maybe I'll get this guy on the podcast if I can't get anybody by next weekend. So until next time, I'm the Mad Conservative Cryfire. This is the Crimeycade podcast. I'll see you around the arcade soon, and have a good night, everybody.